him. And then many years later, the Lord had me into orgone. It seems like we're all kind of three into the same type of energy, the orgone energy, only I had no understanding of it. I'm coming from the back door in. I just do it, and then I ask, what does it do? But both of those men had said that, and I found it interesting, because I just learned this recently. I didn't even know this 5 years ago when I started orgone, that it could bring down UFOs. And so the Lord's showing me through energy how it all works and how it's possible to make that happen. And one of the things is that these UFOs work on dead orgone energy. They operate in a dead atmosphere. Okay, their atmosphere is full of DOR, dead orgone energy. And when they come into the light, into the physical realm, into our manifestation, our realm, all of a sudden they experience a change of energy. And so when they're bombarded with this orgone energy, which is a healing and a positive and a light, a good energy, these dead beings can't handle it. And that's why it's causing them to malfunction and crash. And a lot of them are even starting to die in the upper space atmospheres from orgone energy. It's reaching up there through the breeze, the wind, blowing it around the world. And it's going to get much, much more interesting as to the effects this orgone energy is going to have as Satan arrives on Earth with his forces. We have Maitreya's arrival. We have the locusts from the Euphrates. Another term that I have found that is being used to describe these coming aliens, the tall annex, is buffalo and bison. And so I wasn't real sure for a while exactly what this whole buffalo thing is, and it occurred to me that Indian folklore, and probably some of these ancient religions, always talk about the returning buffalo and stuff like that. And I'm not real versed on it. I'm not real studied on it. I don't know the folklore and the Indians and all that right now. But buffalo is a term that is another term for fallen angels, these fallen angels. And so I found it interesting that its dominant term in the codes right now is buffalo and bison. And it's always referring to the coming Anak and these fallen angels. And I know some New Age websites will talk about the white buffalo. I think that's the Bible codes. I've seen it as the albino. Because I think in the Bible codes also will give you terms that these people would understand if they saw them in the Bible codes. I'm looking at it and don't necessarily understand it. I just kind of learn as I go. But these New Agers, if they saw these terms, they would understand exactly. But they wouldn't agree with it because they think the coming buffalo is God and all this stuff. The Bible codes reveals they're fallen angels, they're liars, they're deceivers, they're manipulators, and the New Agers don't want to hear that. Another interesting thing is that the arrival of Eve, I think that one more than any of them is going to be interesting to me, because she's coming as the Queen of Heaven, Mary, the Mother of God, or whatever, and maybe in some of these other religions, I don't know where a woman comes in. They all have their female goddesses or whatever. So it'll be very interesting to see how she plays out in some of these other religions. But I think it's just going to be interesting to see her. Because like I've said, Eve left, abandoned the Lord, did not die with, in the same way Adam did. Adam died as a righteous man. Eve didn't. She turned her back on the Lord and followed Satan. And Satan had offered her eternal life. And he's been keeping her alive with this white monoatomic gold. And so all these years, all these religions have been mimicking Eve through the Queen of Mary worship or Queen of Heaven worship. They've always included her in all these false religions and occults. You've had a female goddess, and it's always been worship of Eve. And so her coming to earth with Jesus, this general, as you know, I've told you, the Sananda, the church is going to call Jesus. She's going to return to earth with him during the last days. So it's going to be Maitreya, it's going to be Eve, it's going to be this Jesus, this Sananda, and there's going to be some others coming as Christ that Matthew 24 warned about. He warned us in Matthew 24, said, many will come saying, I am Christ. And you have Eve, I'm Christ's mother, or whatever. I don't know what she's going to play. I think it'll just be interesting to see the first woman ever created. I think that would be interesting. I don't know if we'll be here. 144,000 may be taken by then. I definitely see two different routes with the 144,000 during that time. One route being that the 144,000 is taken and raptured shortly before Maitreya arrives. Another route being that we're here for a short time after he arrives, several months. And so I guess we just watch and see what happens. If I'm arrested, and there's a big spectacle about me and Maitreya, because I'm the biggest opponent on earth, then you'll know we're on the second route. We're not on the first one. So we just have to watch. It's going to be one or the other. I don't care what it is. It's like, let's get the show going. Let's get the show on the road. Because they're going to come after the Christians for annihilating their forces. Right now they're busy denying it and disputing it. But eventually they will just come out and admit it. And so when they do admit it, it'll be interesting. Because then they're going to come after the people that caused it. And that's the Oregon Warriors. And so it'll be really interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. I also see it that the Oregon creates a barrier against them, and that's why I've been telling everybody to get your areas, because it's a barrier against the aliens. It's like you're making yourself a wall of protection around your community or whatever. And so, if I'm interpreting it right, then that could protect a lot of people. You know, I just felt like in the last days I would be doing something to help the Lord's people, and you know, I wanted to make a safe haven. And I think this is the Lord's own way of answering that. Because I didn't have the millions of dollars necessary to physically create safe havens for the Lord's people. But I've taken every dime I've had for the last 6 years, and I've put Oregon out, and that's building barriers around cities and countries and areas. That's becoming safe havens for the Lord's people. So the Lord has His own way of doing things. Why does that thing keep kicking me off your show? I can't even get on my own show from my website. So, yeah, the network error. Yeah, no, it's not the government kicking you off. I don't know. I can't say that either. I can't even get on it myself, and so there has to be something in the settings because from these upgrades, you know, almost ready to say, keep your upgrade, give me back my old server. Yeah. Comment from a listener. Acts 1 verse 26, and they gave forth their lots, and the lot fell upon Matthias, and he was numbered with the 11 apostles. Exactly. Matthias replaced Judas. Everybody says Paul replaced Judas. Paul didn't replace Judas. Matthias did. Acts 1:26. They don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to Paul. As much as people love Paul, they're going to die by his heretical and blasphemous teachings because they're following Paul instead of the teachings of the Lord. Question from a listener. Did Adam have a wife before Eve, and did he have one after Eve? The Hebrew books talk about Lilith, but she was a different creation. Lilith left him after being created. There was Lilith and Adam, and then the Lord created Eve. Did he have a wife after Eve? There are some books, some information that says Adam had children with one of his great-granddaughters because Eve had left him. And so, you know, I don't know if it's true or not. It's, you know, one of those things, chew the grass, spit out the hay. One of those things that's, you know, one of those FYIs for your info. So that's basically, I don't know if it's true or not, but it is stated that he had children with a granddaughter later on because Eve had left him as well. So not only Lilith leaving him, but Eve leaving him as well, both being deceived by Satan. Sherry, there were 12 apostles, not 13. Maybe Paul did not write 2 Corinthians. Yeah, Paul wrote it. Paul wrote about, 13 books, I think it is. Nice occultic number for you in the New Testament. The 2 Corinthians is one of Paul's books. What I think is really funny is I think it's in Romans where he talks about he was circumcised on the 8th day. And then you go to Galatians where he's spitting fire and says he'd never be circumcised. He's so psychotic. Anyway, if you have a question or comment for the show, you can send it to SherryTalkRadio at yahoo.com. DC Madam's death was not a suicide. I don't believe it was. We all know she was suicided by the government. Just kind of kill who they want to. I'm not going to get into that tonight, though. Some people really getting into evidence on the DC Madam's death, and she was killed. She was murdered. So